So, Holly Valance, as she's better known, a married name, Holly Candy, obviously.
Yes.
First big sit-down interview for about 10 years.
That's right. We're launching GB News, a new podcast called Chopper's Political Podcast, in which I'm sitting down in a pub. I was on it with you on a different podcast. Yeah. Just talk about politics in a pub situation, which is a different way you can talk to people. Holly
I'm a great believer in that, don't I?
Yeah, you love pubs. I know you're too many. I've been too many with you. Holly Valance, though, she's best known as being in Neighbours as Flick, and then she sang songs as a pop star called Kiss Kiss, and then in Taken, the Liam Neeson film, she was in Taken. Then since 2012, she's got married Nick Candy, a well-known millionaire property developer, and has gone a bit quiet for 10 years until she's come out at this PopCon event, and she came out saying she liked you a bit. She thought Leanne would be great, and Jacob Rees-Mogg could be Prime Minister. So I interviewed her for my podcast, and we talked about a lot of things. The first one, amongst many things, you'll hear tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on wherever you find your podcast. We spoke about your old mate Donald Trump.
Well, of course, I introduced her to Donald Trump.
Yes.
You know, and I took her to Mar-a-Lago. Maybe we can see the photograph up on our screens. And there it is. There's the Donald in the middle, Nick Candy on the left, there's me, and there's Holly. So I did introduce her to Donald Trump, and I think it left quite an impression, didn't it?
It's all your fault, Nigel. Yeah,
well, a lot of things are.
She's definitely right of centre. You don't hear many celebrities, pop stars, Hollywood types, let's say, they're talking about issues of the right, and she's been pretty clear she is a right-winger and she's frustrated by some things in this country. But before we get to that, I did ask her about her views on Donald Trump when she met her at that point. Here's what she had to say.
Pretty briefly, you met Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What was it? There was a photograph online of you meeting him. You and Nick met him, I think. What's he like?
Unreal. He was fabulous. So we were all in Miami, and Nick had said to Nigel at some point, listen, if you go to Mar-a-Lago, count us in, we want to meet the big guy. And so Nigel was going, and we all went together, and he was incredible. He gave us an hour of his time in the office. I couldn't believe how much time and interest he gave us. He wanted to know all about where we were from, what we do, all about Nick's businesses. It was not what I was expecting. I thought maybe somebody a bit more brash, a bit more cocky and loud, and he was extremely warm, extremely gentlemanly, and very interested in everything that was going on in the UK, asking us all about politics. It was great to have Nigel there. Him and Nigel are fantastic friends. I think that's really important for us as well going forward into the next election in America, that we have these friendships.
And Nigel for UK ambassador to America?
I think he'd be a fantastic ambassador. He'd be great.
Keen on that.
Yeah.
Trump he wasn't the ogre who was painted by his critics. I mean, also he has said some pretty jabber remarks about women. Did that put you off, or did you raise it with him?
Harden up. People say nasty things all day. I've had disgusting things said to me. Absolutely disgusting things that would floor you if I said them out loud on this microphone right now, where you have to call police. Did I cry? No.
So toughen up.
Well, as my friend put it to me the other day, if you're hiring an attorney, do you want the nice guy that smiles nicely, is polite to everyone, or do you want the pit bull? And ultimately, the attorney is him. He's your attorney. You want the guy that's going to go and fight for you.
For America, you mean?
Yeah.
Verbal stage and...
Yeah. So just because you don't like someone's disposition all the time, and I actually don't mind it, just as I like straight shooters who don't talk, I don't have a problem with it.
They have hardened up, she says, to women who don't like Trump, because he's, you know, you can argue for Trump's record when he was president, but, you know, he kept the world a bit safer than Biden's managed to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you also asked about some personal issues, you know, to do with law and order in London. Law
and order, yeah. I was asked about her views on that, and she disclosed, she would say, how London feels a bit more lawless currently, and she talked about being mugged in Chelsea. Here's what she had to say.
It was out of control. All of us have been robbed on King's Road in our area. Yep.
What happened when you were robbed?
I just had my phone taken out of the pram, like stealing off a mum with her baby in the pram. It's pretty low stuff. No, I wasn't hurt, fortunately. But yeah, I've had friends get belted for their phones and watches and home raids and trying to kick in doors, and it's
in Chelsea.
Yeah. Particularly in Chelsea, because they know people are walking around with probably a nice watch on.
Yeah, and the police are helpful.
They rob me, they're in for a nasty surprise. I'm usually in a Swatch down the street. No offence to Swatch.
No. And then what do the police do? Are they helpful?
They don't really turn up. You can call them, but I don't ever see a bobby. It's like kids point and stare now when you see a policeman on the street. Look, Mum, a real live police person. Person. So yeah. PC, policeman.
It's meant to invest in more
person.
20 police person.
Police person. Give me a break. Policeman, officer.
Yes. Well, they are. The UK government is investing more in police in England and Wales, maybe. So they're meant to be more around to reassure.
It would be nice to. I think it's a deterrent at the very least. And I also don't understand how in this day and age with such cheap technology, for instance, with CCTVs, like anyone can stick a Ring camera anywhere for 150 quid. Why, for instance, our high street doesn't have any CCTV cameras. Now, I'm not a big person who wants a lot of cameras around, but on a high street where everyone's being robbed blind, it might be a nice idea, and it doesn't cost much. So then why don't we have that?
Yes.
Well, it all looks fascinating. Big podcast. How long's the podcast?
About 40 minutes.
Fine.
Tune in.
From 6 o'clock tomorrow, where do we get it?
Okay, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast is there. Subscribe, sign up, tell your mates, even your mates, Nigel. It's not very complicated listening. Yeah. Tune in. Chopper's Political Podcast.
Chopper's Political Podcast. Very, very good. Now, in response to what Holly said, a Met Police spokesman said we continue to dedicate our resources into tackling robbery, knife crime and taking weapons off our streets. In Westminster and Kensington and Chelsea, officers are regularly deployed into known hotspot locations using innovative tactics and conducting high-visibility patrols to keep the community safe.